Hello, folks. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this audio podcast. This audio podcast is part of a Phantom edition. This audio podcast, as part of a Labostix Machina. This audio podcast as part of a Vertex Relay. This audio podcast as part of the Abstrax, and this audio podcast as part of this audio podcast as part of a Storm Labostix production. This in as part of today or part of today's audio podcast will or today's audio podcast will look at an abstract in regard to the role of endogenous opioids in Ischaemic Pre-Conditioning. This works or the abstracts and the works was part of part of some research that had taken place in around 2008 originally. In around 2015, 2014, 2015, a sort of a sort of a book publication from this works was formed, and in around 2022, an abstract had been an abstract in regard to the works had been updated, and so the abstract in this works from 2022 is as thus. Timely reperfusion of ischemic tissue is a prerequisite to improve outcomes of conditions such as coronary heart disease or CHD. But paradoxically, reperfusion causes injury to tissues. This concept is referred to as ischemic reperfusion or IR injury. Studies or investigations are thriving or have been thriving to better understand IR injury and develop a novel pharmacotherapy to minimize this. One such approach is termed or has been termed ischemic preconditioning or IPC, which entails brief periods of alternating ischemia and reperfusion before or prior to prolonged period of index ischemia. Endogenous opioid peptides or EOPs are thought to play a role in IPC, in ischemic preconditioning or IPC. And so using a human forearm model of IR injury, this work sought to originally assess the effect of the non-selective opioids receptor antagonist naloxone on protection by ischemic preconditioning. In addition, plasma concentrations of the endogenous opioid beta endorphin was assessed was assessed or analyzed during an IPC ischemic preconditioning stimulus. In regard to the methodology, the role of opioid receptor blockade naloxone in ischemic preconditioning IPC on healthy volunteers was determined. And flow mediated dilatation or FMD of the brachial artery was measured by ultrasound to determine endothelial ischemia reperfusion or IR injury, and using enzyme linked immunosorbent assay or ELISA sort of a procedure. Beta endorphin, ELISA, ELISA as part of a as sort of a methodology to assess from a laboratory perspective beta endorphin was quantified to establish whether it has a local effect to induce protection during ischemia reperfusion injury. Venous blood samples were collected from healthy volunteers during an IPC stimulus. Around the results, IR caused endothelial dysfunction, where flow-mediated dilatation was 6.7 plus or minus 0.7, and pre versus 2.4 pre versus 2.5 plus or minus 0.4 of 0.4 or 0.4, and post IR, where the p value in regard to the p value was 0.05, or n equals 10, and naloxone did not affect the protective effect of ischemic preconditioning, or IPC, against endothelial ischemia reperfusion injury, where flow-mediated dilatation was 6.1 plus or minus 0.4 pre versus 6.5 plus or minus 0.6 post, and naloxone post naloxone plus IPC, ischemic preconditioning. The p value was more than 0.05, and again, as well, where n equals 10, and the plasma and beta endorphin concentrations remained unchanged during the IPC, ischemic preconditioning stimulus. In regard to the conclusion, the protective effects of ischemic preconditioning the protective effects of ischemic preconditioning were not abolished by naloxone. Plasma endorphin concentrations did not change in response to a protective stimulus. Did not change in response to the protective stimulus, and further investigations have been required. Some main terminologies to identify similar works. Similar works include ischemic preconditioning, flow-mediated dilatation, reperfusion, and cardiovascular disease. So that draws this audio podcast to a close. This audio podcast as part of a Phantom Edition, this audio podcast as part of a Labostix Machina, this audio podcast as part of a Vertex ruling, this audio podcast as part of a Storm Labostix production, and this audio podcast as part of the Abstrax.